I was 34 weeks pregnant when the pain dropped me to my knees in my parents' kitchen. Mom. My voice came out thin enough that I barely recognized it. I grabbed the edge of the counter and tried to stand, but another contraction tightened across my stomach and folded me forward again. Mom, please. Something's wrong. She was standing in the hallway mirror, fastening one of the pearl earrings Lily had given her last Christmas. She glanced at me. Then she glanced at the clock. The reservation is in an hour. For a second, I thought she hadn't understood what I was saying. I'm not asking you to miss dinner. Just take me to the hospital first. I swallowed against another wave of pain. Please. Dad came down the hallway already wearing his jacket. I reached for his sleeve. Dad, I can't drive like this. Owen's still at the job site. Please don't leave me here. He looked at my hand on his arm, then gently pulled himself free. Megan, you've been nervous this whole pregnancy. Stop turning everything into an emergency. This is different. You said that last time. Last time I could stand. Another contraction hit before I finished the sentence. I pressed both hands beneath my stomach and gasped. Please, I'm scared. Mom picked up her purse. Your sister only turns 30 once. I stared at her. I'm your daughter too. For one ridiculous second, I thought that sentence would change something. I thought there had to be some combination of words a daughter could use that would make her parents choose her when she was standing 3 feet away begging them not to leave. Dad opened the front door. Call us if it gets worse. It is getting worse. My voice cracked. I followed them as far as the hallway, one hand sliding along the wall because I couldn't straighten completely. Mom, please. She stepped onto the porch. Don't ruin Lily's night, Megan. Then the door closed. I stood alone in my parents' hallway, listening to their car reverse out of the driveway. And that was the moment I stopped begging my parents to believe me. I called 911 myself. That night, my daughter came 6 weeks early. 48 hours later, my parents were outside my hospital room begging me to let them in. I thought they had finally understood what they had done. Then my mother walked through the door carrying a folder. And I realized they hadn't come back because they were sorry. They had come back because they still needed something from me. 2 hours before they left me in that kitchen, I had been sitting at the same table with a yellow highlighter in my hand. That was normal for me. At 35, I managed logistics planning for a regional food distributor outside Pittsburgh. My workdays were built around questions most people didn't think about until something went wrong. How many drivers were actually available? Which warehouse had enough capacity? What happened if a shipment arrived 6 hours late? Who had confirmed a shift, and who had merely been asked? At work, there was a rule I repeated so often my team teased me about it. Unconfirmed capacity was not capacity. Apparently, I only believed that rule applied to everyone except me. I had stopped at my parents' house that Saturday to return a folder belonging to my grandmother, Ruth. Grandma was 82 and finishing a short rehabilitation stay after hip surgery. She was doing well, but she would need some help when she went home. Mom had asked me to look over a draft schedule. By look over, she usually meant fix. A color-coded calendar covered half the kitchen table. Mom loved color coding almost as much as she hated admitting she had learned it from me. Blue for medical appointments, green for meals, yellow for family visits, purple for transportation. I ran one finger down the week Grandma was expected home. Then I stopped. Megan 9 a.m. 4 p.m. Tuesday. The same thing appeared Wednesday, Thursday, then Monday through Thursday the following week. I looked up. Why am I on Tuesday and Wednesday? Mom was carrying a garment bag toward the downstairs bathroom. We'll sort it out. I'm on almost every weekday. You'll be home anyway. I stared at her. I'll be on maternity leave. Exactly. That's not the same as being available. Mom gave me the smile she used whenever she wanted to turn a disagreement into evidence that I was difficult. No one is asking you to do anything right now, Megan. My father was at the counter, opening a box of pastries they were taking to Lily's birthday dinner. I looked at him. Did you know about this? He barely glanced over. I thought your mother talked to you. That sentence had followed me through half my adult life. I thought your mother talked to you. About Dad's colonoscopy when I had already scheduled a client review. About Thanksgiving when Mom told 23 people I was hosting. About the weekend, Lily needed help moving, and apparently I had offered my SUV. I looked back at the calendar. I didn't agree to any of these days. Mom, Sihilde. We'll discuss it later. Grandma isn't even home yet. I should have taken a picture. I should have asked who had made the schedule. Instead, I did what I had been trained to do in my family. I assumed there would be time later to straighten everything out. Then, a tightness crossed my abdomen. I put the highlighter down. I had felt Braxton Hicks before. This wasn't quite the same. I waited. It passed. Mom came back downstairs wearing a navy dress and carrying 2 pairs of shoes. Which ones? I pointed absently toward the lower heels. You'll complain about your feet less. That's why I ask you. She smiled as though we had shared something affectionate. Maybe we had. That was what made my family difficult to explain. They weren't cruel every minute. Mom could bring soup when I had the flu. Dad still checked my tires before long winter drives. Lily had sat on my bathroom floor with me the morning I found out I was pregnant because my hands had been shaking too hard to hold the test. And then, somehow, when something had to be sacrificed, my name always appeared in the correct box. Another pain came, stronger. I stood and felt pressure low in my abdomen. Mom. What? Give me a minute. She was checking her lipstick. I breathed slowly. When it passed, I looked at the clock. Then another came sooner than I expected. That was when I stopped thinking about the calendar. 10 minutes later, I was gripping the kitchen counter, asking my parents to take me to the hospital. And 20 minutes after that, I was alone. The 911 dispatcher asked whether I could unlock the front door. Yes. How many weeks pregnant are you? 34. Is this your first pregnancy? Yes. Is anyone with you? I looked at the purse Mom had forgotten to move from the chair before deciding she wanted the other one. No. Saying it out loud hurt in a different place. No. I'm alone. The dispatcher stayed with me until I heard the ambulance. I called Owen next. He answered over the sound of machinery. Hey Meg. I'm going to the hospital. Everything behind him seemed to disappear. What happened? Contractions. They're close. I'm leaving now. Owen, you're more than 2 hours away. I know. My parents left. Silence. What? They went to Lily's birthday. Another contraction interrupted me. I heard his breathing change. Meg, listen to me. Don't worry about them right now. Are the paramedics there? I heard the knock. Yes. I'm coming. The rest of the evening arrived in pieces. Cold air when the paramedics wheeled me outside. The ambulance lights reflecting off the windows of my parents' empty house. Questions. My name. My due date. My doctor. A nurse telling me they were contacting the obstetric team. Owen calling twice while he drove, then stopping because I told him I couldn't keep answering. There was no dramatic moment when someone announced that my parents had been wrong. There didn't need to be. The words preterm labor were enough. Things moved quickly after that. By the time Owen reached the hospital, I had already signed forms, answered questions, been examined, and listened to a physician explain what they were watching for. Ella arrived that night, tiny, angry, alive. She cried, and I cried because she did. Then the neonatal team took her to the NICU for monitoring because she had come 6 weeks earlier than planned. I remember Owen sitting beside my bed sometime after midnight. His work boots were still dirty. He looked as though he had aged 5 years during the drive. He took my hand. I'm sorry I wasn't here. You were working. I should've. No. I was too tired for guilt that didn't belong to him. I called the people who were here. His jaw tightened. I knew exactly who he was thinking about. He looked toward the door. What do you want me to do about your parents? Not what should I do. Not I'm going to deal with them. What do you want me to do? I closed my eyes. Stay. I'm staying. And don't let anybody decide things for me. His hand tightened around mine. Okay. That was all. The next morning, my body felt like it belonged to someone I had been assigned to manage badly. I was exhausted in layers. There was physical pain. There was the fear that came every time someone entered the room after visiting Ella. There was the strange emptiness of giving birth and not having my baby beside me. And underneath all of it was one simple thought I kept trying not to touch. They left. My parents had actually left. I didn't investigate anything. I didn't open a spreadsheet. I didn't build a timeline. For most of Sunday, checking the time felt like work. At some point, I opened my phone and saw a photograph Lily had posted from the night before. She stood beneath an arch of white roses and gold balloons with a champagne glass in one hand. Mom was on one side of her. Dad was on the other. All three were smiling. The timestamp on the post was less than an hour after paramedics had taken me from the house. I stared at it until the photograph blurred. Then I saw Lily's message. Mom said you had a scare, but you're okay and Owen's handling it. Are you all right? I read it twice. A scare. I didn't answer. I couldn't decide whether I was angrier that Lily had believed Mom or relieved that she hadn't been smiling for photographs while knowing exactly what was happening to me. For now, I only knew one thing. Mom had told her a version that made leaving me sound reasonable. A nurse came in a little later and asked about visitors. Your husband is listed, of course. Do you want us to allow immediate family automatically? My mouth opened. Family is fine. That was what I nearly said. It was the reflex. Then I saw Mom walking out that front door again. Actually, no. The nurse waited. Please ask me first. Everyone. Absolutely. She made a note. It was such a small thing. A line in a hospital system. But my heart beat harder after I said it. Later, I checked my insurance portal because a notification appeared on the screen. There were already claims connected to the delivery and Ella's care. All of them said some variation of pending. I had good insurance through work. Good insurance did not mean free, but I was too tired to think about deductibles, out-of-pocket limits, or anything else that morning. I closed the app. For once, I let an unresolved problem remain unresolved. The next day, just short of 48 hours after my parents had driven away from me, someone knocked. Owen looked through the small glass panel beside the door. His entire posture changed. Your parents. I felt my stomach tighten, and it had nothing to do with labor this time. Are they alone? Yes. Another knock. Then Dad's voice. Megan? Honey? Mom followed. We just want 5 minutes. Owen stood. I watched him cross the room. He opened the door only far enough to stand in the gap. Mom immediately tried to move forward. He didn't move. You left her while she was in labor. His voice was quiet. That made it sharper. Owen, this is between us and our daughter. No. This doorway is between you and a patient who asked to approve every visitor. Dad's face hardened. We are her parents. And she is 35 years old. Mom looked past him toward me. Megan, are you seriously going to let him keep us out? There it was. Not, can we come in? Not, are you okay? Already, my decision was being turned into Owen's behavior. He looked back at me. Do you want to see them? Mom went silent. So did Dad. For once, nobody could answer for me. Part of me wanted to say no. Another part, the part that had spent 35 years hoping one day my parents would finally recognize when they had gone too far, wanted to hear an apology. 5 minutes. Owen stepped aside. Mom entered first carrying flowers. Dad followed. And under Mom's arm was a beige folder. I recognized it before she reached the bed. Grandma Ruth's. My eyes stayed on it. Mom noticed. We brought this because there's a timing issue. Of course there was. She asked about Ella. Dad said he was glad she was stable. Mom touched my blanket and said, You gave us such a scare. Not we left you. I gave them a scare. Then she placed the folder on my tray. Grandma's rehab team needs the family support confirmed before discharge planning gets finalized. I didn't touch it. Why are you bringing this here? Because Nina needs to know you can handle the first 2 weeks. Owen shifted near the door. Mom looked at him, irritated. You'll be home with the baby anyway. There it was again. I opened the folder. The same color-coded calendar lay inside. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. My name. Again and again. I looked at Dad. Did you know I was scheduled for this? His eyes moved toward Mom. I thought your mother talked to you. When? He frowned. What? When did she talk to me? Neither of them answered. Mom folded her arms. Megan, Grandma needs family right now. So do I. The words came out before I could soften them. Mom blinked. Of course you do. But you have Owen. And Grandma has 3 adult relatives being included in this plan. Professional care is expensive. I stared at her. I was 2 days removed from premature labor. My daughter was in the NICU. Insurance claims were already stacking up in a portal with the word pending beside them. But Grandma's potential care expenses were the emergency Mom wanted me to solve. We already told them family had it covered, she said. I put one hand on the folder. You told them I had it covered. Megan, I never agreed to these shifts. You were always going to be home. My maternity leave is not an empty box on your calendar. Dad exhaled. No one is trying to take advantage of you. I looked at him. Then this should be easy. I pushed the folder back toward them. No one confirms my availability, except me. Mom's expression changed. Not dramatically, just enough. The softness disappeared. Owen has clearly gotten into your head. I almost laughed. Instead, I pointed toward him. He hasn't said one word about Grandma's schedule. Mom opened her mouth. I stopped her. This is my answer, not his. For several seconds, the only sound in the room was the monitor near my bed. Then Mom picked up the folder. Fine. We'll talk when you're feeling more like yourself. That sentence hurt more than I expected, because for the first time, I wondered whether this was me feeling more like myself than I ever had. They left. Owen closed the door. He didn't ask me if I was okay. We both knew I wasn't. He just brought my water closer and sat down. A few minutes later, my phone vibrated. An email. The sender was Nina Patel, Rehabilitation Care Coordination. The subject line read, Ruth Bennett, Family Support Confirmation. I almost left it unopened. Then the preview caught my eye. Thank you again for agreeing to serve as weekday family support after Ruth's discharge. I read that sentence 3 times. I had never spoken to Nina Patel. I had never agreed to a single weekday. And yet, somewhere outside that hospital room, someone had already turned my maternity leave into a promise. I looked at the closed door my parents had just walked through. For the first time, the question wasn't whether Mom had misunderstood me. It was much simpler. Who had told everyone I said yes? Who had told everyone I said yes? The question stayed with me long after the rehabilitation email disappeared beneath newer notifications. For about 5 minutes, every instinct I had from work told me to sit up, open my laptop, trace the source, compare dates, and figure out exactly how my name had gotten into a care plan I had never approved. Then my body reminded me that I had given birth less than 3 days earlier. A wave of exhaustion rolled through me so suddenly that the phone nearly slipped from my hand. Owen took it before it hit the blanket. That's enough for now. Normally, being told something was enough would have irritated me. This time, I didn't have the strength. Put it on the charger. He did. And don't answer anything. I won't. Even if my mother calls. His mouth tightened. Especially if your mother calls. That almost made me smile. Ella was still being monitored in the NICU. Every trip down the hall to see her seemed to use energy I didn't have, and every trip back without her made the room feel too large. There were feedings to think about, pumping, medications, nurses coming in, doctors making rounds, and sleep arriving in pieces, too short to feel like sleep. So I made myself a rule. 10 minutes. That was all I was allowed to spend on anything involving Grandma's schedule at one time. Not because Carol deserved patience. Because I did. The following morning, after I had seen Ella and managed half a breakfast, Owen set my laptop on the rolling table. 10 minutes, he said. You're enjoying this. I'm enjoying being right. That sounds like enjoying this. He kissed the top of my head and went to wash pump parts at the sink. The email from Nina Patel was still there. Rather than call anyone, I wrote back. Thank you for contacting me. I need to clarify that I did not agree to the weekday coverage listed for my grandmother. Please do not treat any availability assigned to me by another family member as confirmed. If there is a draft showing what was communicated, I would like to review the portion involving me. No accusations, no mention of Mom, just facts. My finger hovered over send. A familiar discomfort tightened beneath my ribs. It was ridiculous. I could approve freight changes affecting thousands of dollars before lunch without needing anyone to reassure me. Yet correcting one sentence about my own time felt almost rude. I sent it anyway. Nina answered less than an hour later, though I didn't open the reply until after another NICU visit and a nap. Her message was professional and brief. She explained that the support plan had been assembled from information provided by the designated family contact. Any actual family care commitments would need to be confirmed directly before discharge arrangements were finalized. Because my email address had already been added to the coordination chain, she forwarded the section of the draft that involved me. There it was. My name. My phone number. Then, beside weekday support, Megan maternity leave, weekday availability. For several seconds, the words stopped looking like English. Maternity leave. Weekday availability. Someone had taken one fact about my life and converted it into capacity. At work, nobody could do that. A truck parked in the yard was not an available truck if it was scheduled for maintenance. An employee standing in the building was not available if she was already assigned somewhere else. A warehouse with empty floor space was not usable capacity if that space was reserved. Unconfirmed capacity was not capacity. I had repeated that sentence for years. Yet somewhere between being Carol's daughter and being the reliable one, maternity leave had become an empty square everyone else could write in. The cursor blinked. For one dangerous moment, energy rushed through me. Not physical energy, something sharper. The urge to search every email, every text, every old family calendar and prove this had happened before. My lower back throbbed when I shifted. That was enough. A new folder went into my inbox. I named it RUTH confirmation. Nina's email went inside. Then the laptop closed. One file. One fact. 10 minutes. That was all. Mom called that afternoon. Seeing her name on the screen tightened my shoulders before I even answered. Owen was sitting by the window with a paper cup of coffee. He glanced at the phone, then at me. You want me to go? No. He stayed where he was. I answered. Hi. Mom skipped hello. I spoke to your grandmother. Of course she had. She's worried. About what? That this whole care situation is becoming some kind of fight. I looked toward the NICU bracelet around my wrist. I told Nina I never agreed to the weekday schedule. That's exactly what I mean. What part? You're making something simple, complicated. The old rhythm of our conversations arrived immediately. Mom defined the problem. I defended myself inside the definition she had chosen. This time, I didn't. Who told Nina I was available? A pause. We discussed it as a family. That wasn't my question. Megan, Grandma is 82. She just had surgery. I know how old Grandma is. She shouldn't have to burn through her savings paying strangers when she has family. The word strangers landed exactly where Mom wanted it to. Not trained help. Not paid caregivers. Strangers. You know I've just had a baby 6 weeks early. And Ella is doing well. She is in the NICU. For monitoring. You said yourself she's stable. My grip tightened around the phone. Mom continued. Besides, you have good insurance. You'll be fine. For a second, I said nothing. The sentence sounded too familiar. You'll be fine. Dad had said it in the kitchen while I was begging them to take me to the hospital. Now Mom was using it for money. The patient portal was still open on my phone from that morning. Claims connected to my delivery and Ella's care sat there marked pending. No final amount, no certainty. Just the knowledge that good insurance and no financial impact were not the same thing. Grandma's possible care expenses, however, had apparently become urgent enough to spend my recovery preventing. My insurance isn't the point. I'm saying you don't need to panic about money. I'm not panicking about money. Well then, my leave is for recovery and my baby. It is not a free care budget. The words came out flatter than I expected. Mom inhaled. You always make everything sound like a business transaction. There it was. The accusation I had heard whenever numbers stopped being useful to her. I looked at the clock. 8 minutes. Who told Nina I agreed? We'll talk when you're home and rested. That sounds like you don't have an answer. Megan, I need to go. You're hanging up on your mother? Yes. My thumb pressed the screen before guilt could negotiate an extension. Owen watched me put the phone down. You okay? No. Wanna talk? Not yet. He nodded. No lecture. No congratulations for standing up for myself. He simply took the empty water pitcher and went to refill it. A calendar alert appeared as he left. Dad's dental follow-up. I had put it into my phone 6 months earlier because Mom had told me he would forget. The notification pulled 3 memories behind it. Not dramatic ones. That was the problem. Years earlier, Dad had needed a minor outpatient procedure. Lily had a client event she said she couldn't miss. I had used a vacation day, driven Dad there, waited 3 hours, brought him home, picked up his prescription, and reheated soup for him. At Christmas, Mom told everyone, Megan's always been our responsible one. I had felt proud. Another memory followed. Thanksgiving at my house. 3 days of shopping, cooking, moving furniture, figuring out who could sit where, making sure Grandma had a chair with arms, and changing the mealtime because Lily had another commitment. Lily arrived 20 minutes before dinner, carrying 2 bottles of wine. Mom hugged her in the doorway. There she is. You always bring the fun. That night, after everyone left, I loaded the dishwasher alone, while Mom texted the group a photo of Lily raising her glass. Then there was Grandma's medication schedule after an earlier health issue. Mom had handed me a sheet of paper, covered in crossed-out times. You love spreadsheets. I had reorganized it before bed. The compliment had worked every time. Reliable. Organized. Good with details. Strong. Each word sounded like praise until I looked at what came immediately after it. A task. A favor. A gap someone else had left. The note app opened. Only 4 words went into it. Reliable became available. Then I closed the phone. That was the first time I saw the pattern without immediately volunteering to fix it. Lily called the next morning. Her face appeared on my screen without makeup, hair pulled into a knot. The birthday photos had made her look polished enough for a magazine ad. On video, she just looked worried. Can I see her? She's sleeping. Is she okay? She's stable. Lily's shoulders dropped slightly. God, Meg. Mom finally told me how early she came. Finally? She said you were having contractions before dinner, but she made it sound like nothing. My stomach tightened. What exactly did she say? Lily looked away for a second, trying to remember. She texted that you had a scare, probably false labor. She said Owen was handling it and you didn't want everybody making a scene. The room around me seemed to sharpen. I never said that. What? Owen wasn't handling it. He was more than 2 hours away. They knew that. Lily stared at me. Mom said he was already on his way. He was, after I called him from the ambulance. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. They left me alone in the house, Lily. I didn't know that. I believe you didn't know how serious it was. Relief flickered across her face too quickly. I wasn't done. But you didn't call me. I texted you. You asked if I was okay after Mom told you I was okay. Her expression tightened. That's not fair. Maybe not. I thought you were being taken care of. So did I. Lily rubbed one hand over her forehead. I'm sorry about the hospital. I am. What they did was messed up. The apology settled between us. Then she said, but Grandma shouldn't be the one who suffers because you're mad at Mom. There it was. The trapdoor beneath the apology. This isn't punishment. Mom said you already cleared the first 2 weeks. Mom also told you I didn't want anyone making a scene while I was calling an ambulance. That's different. Is it? Lily didn't answer. Did you ever ask me whether I agreed to take Grandma's weekdays? No, because Mom said, that's the problem. Her jaw shifted. I didn't think I had to verify everything Mom told me. Neither did I. That stopped both of us. For a moment, neither sister had anything safe to say. Then Lily exhaled. I already committed to the regional campaign. What campaign? The Carson launch. 6 weeks. 3 markets. I remembered her mentioning it months ago as something she wanted, not something she had landed. When did you accept it? Last week. And Grandma? Mom said you had the first 2 weeks covered. By the time Grandma needed more help, things would be easier. There it was again. My availability had not merely filled Grandma's calendar. It had created space in Lily's. You accepted 6 weeks of travel because Mom told you I'd handle Grandma? Not because of that. But it made saying yes easier. Lily folded her arms. This is a huge opportunity for me. I'm not asking you to give it up. Her expression changed. Then what are you asking? For you to stop treating your opportunity as something my calendar has to absorb. That's not what I'm doing. Your campaign doesn't create an obligation in my schedule. She flinched as if I had made the conversation unnecessarily formal. Maybe I had. Facts were easier to hold than guilt. So what am I supposed to do? Figure out what you can actually offer, Grandma. I'll be traveling. Then maybe what you can offer is money toward help. Maybe weekends. Maybe calls. I don't know. You're the logistics person. The words were out before she could pull them back. Something almost funny moved through me. There it was again. My job description. I shook my head. Not this time. Megan, if you need something from me, ask me directly. Not Mom. She stared at the screen. And if you say no, then you'll have an answer. That sounds harsh. It sounds like asking. Lily looked down. For years, Mom had softened every request before it reached me by presenting it as a decision already made. Direct asking meant someone had to risk hearing no. Apparently that felt harsher than volunteering me. The call ended without a fight, and without resolution. That mattered. A few minutes later, Owen came in, carrying a small insulated bag from the hospital cafeteria. How'd it go? She didn't know. About the labor? Not really. He set the bag down. And the rest? She also never asked whether I agreed to Grandma's schedule. Owen pulled out a container and handed me a fork. What are you going to do? Eat this. Excellent plan. And then nothing for at least an hour. Even better. Grandma called before the hour was up. Her name on my screen was different from Mom's. No tightening in my chest. Just guilt. That was worse. Hi, Grandma. There's my girl. Her voice sounded tired but clear. How's that little baby? For several minutes, we talked only about Ella. Grandma wanted to know how much hair she had, whether she was eating, whether Owen had remembered to sleep. Then her tone shifted. Your mother says you're too upset to help me now. My fork stopped halfway to the container. She said what? She told me not to bother you. Said you've changed your mind because things are tense. Grandma, what exactly were you told I agreed to? A pause. Well, weekdays at first. Your mother said since you'd be home on maternity leave, you wanted to help until I was steady. Did I ever tell you that? No, honey, but I thought you'd told Carol. I didn't. Grandma went quiet. The guilt I had been carrying suddenly changed shape. Not disappeared. Changed. I don't want you worrying about this while you're recovering, she said. I need one thing clarified. What? Did you ask Mom for me specifically? No. My hand tightened around the fork. What did you ask for? Another pause. Then Grandma said, I asked whether I should hire someone for a few hours during the day when I first came home. The room seemed to lose sound. What happened? Your mother told me not to. Why? She said it was silly to waste the money. Grandma hesitated. Then came the sentence that changed the entire problem. She said you wanted to do it. My breathing slowed. Not because I was calmer. Because suddenly every piece had somewhere to go. The calendar. The maternity leave notation. Lily's campaign. Mom's insistence that professional help was too expensive. Grandma had not demanded my time. She had tried to buy her own. Carol had stopped her by spending mine instead. Grandma, I said carefully. I never asked you not to hire anyone. I know that now. No. I need you to hear this clearly. I never volunteered for those weekday shifts, and I never asked you to save that money. Grandma was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, almost to herself, Then why did your mother tell me you did? Then why did your mother tell me you did? Grandma Ruth's question hung between us. For years, whenever Mom volunteered my time, there had always been an explanation waiting afterward. She assumed I wouldn't mind. She thought I had said yes. She was trying to make things easier. She knew I would help eventually. Every version made the same thing sound harmless. She had simply gotten ahead of me. But this time, Grandma had asked about hiring daytime help with her own money. Mom had told her not to, because I supposedly wanted to provide that care myself. That wasn't getting ahead of me. That was speaking for me. I don't know, I said. Even as the words left my mouth, my mind started doing what it always did around Mom. Building her defense, before she had even asked for one. Maybe she meant to check with me later. Maybe she believed maternity leave would be easier than I expected. Maybe she remembered a conversation differently. Then, I looked again at the email from Nina. My name. My phone number. Weekday availability. A schedule built around something I had never offered. No, I said quietly. Grandma frowned. Know what? I think I do know. She waited. Mom knew if she told you I wanted to do it, you wouldn't hire anybody. And once everyone planned around me, saying no would make it look like I was the one creating the problem. For a few seconds, Grandma said nothing. Her face on the screen looked smaller than I remembered from before surgery. I don't want this causing trouble between you and your mother. That sentence hit the oldest part of me. Keep the peace. Don't upset Grandma. Don't make people choose sides. The answer I had given most of my life rose automatically. It's okay. We'll work it out. Instead, my fingers tightened around the edge of the blanket. You didn't cause it. I still need help when I get home. I know. And you've got enough going on. Yes. Both things could be true. Grandma could need help, and I could still be unavailable. It shouldn't have taken 35 years for those two facts to coexist. Can we do something differently? I asked. What? If you need something from me, ask me directly. Her eyebrows lifted slightly. If I can help, I'll say yes. If I can't, I'll say no. But nobody gets to answer for me anymore. A faint smile touched her mouth. That seems fair. It should have always been fair. After we ended the call, exhaustion caught up with me so quickly my phone nearly slid out of my hand. There was no rush of triumph, no sudden determination to expose anyone. My body felt heavy, my lower back hurt, and Ella was still in the NICU. So, I added one sentence to the note I had started. Ruth requested paid daytime help. Carol discouraged it, using Megan's supposed offer. Then I closed the phone and slept. That became my rule over the next few days. 10 minutes. No more. When enough energy returned, I could look at one email, save one document, write one line. Then I stopped. The rest belonged to recovery and Ella. Sometimes, facts were easier than fear. A date could be checked. A name could be confirmed. A schedule either existed or it didn't. NICU uncertainty was different. There was no column I could build that would make me less afraid every time I walked into that room and saw my daughter surrounded by equipment meant to help babies who had arrived before anyone was ready. So yes, part of me wanted to disappear into documentation. That was exactly why I refused to let myself. When Nina scheduled a care planning call with Grandma and me, I waited until after I had eaten and rested before opening my laptop. Owen set a glass of water beside me. You want me here? Nearby. He nodded and took his coffee to the other side of the room. Close enough if I needed something. Far enough that the conversation was mine. Grandma appeared on screen from rehab, reading glasses low on her nose. Nina joined from her office. She was calm and matter-of-fact. Before Ruth's discharge, she said, we need to separate proposed family support from confirmed support. That phrase caught me immediately. Proposed. Confirmed. At work, those two words could be the difference between a workable plan and a disaster. Nina shared the current draft. Colored blocks filled the screen. My name appeared across weekday after weekday. Can you show me when my availability was provided? I asked. She scrolled to the planning notes. A date appeared. Thursday. My stomach tightened. Thursday was before Lily's birthday. Before my contractions. Before the ambulance. Before anyone could claim the schedule had been created because everything became chaotic after Ella arrived. Mom had already committed my maternity leave before I went into premature labor. Who provided that information? I asked. The designated family contact was Carol Walker. Grandma's mouth flattened. Nina continued, careful not to interpret beyond the record. The note says Megan expected to be home and was anticipated to provide weekday support during the initial transition. Does it show that anyone confirmed that with me? She checked. No direct confirmation from you is documented. Something inside me went very still. Not anger. Recognition. For years, Mom had told me I was too sensitive about how requests were made. But this wasn't tone. It was process. She had provided my availability. Other people had built around it. I had never been asked. Grandma leaned toward her screen. Was there another version before this? Yes. Nina opened an earlier draft. That version included more paid daytime assistance. The newer version had fewer professional care hours. Beside the change sat a short note. Family support expected to cover remaining weekday needs. Grandma adjusted her glasses. That was after I asked Carol about hiring help. I can only tell you when the planning changes were documented, Nina said. This version followed the family support update. That was enough. Mom had not merely put my name on a calendar. My supposed availability had been used to reduce the amount of professional help Grandma planned to purchase. Grandma looked at me. I want the paid option back on the table. Relief moved through me so quickly that guilt followed right behind it. What would that look like? I asked Nina. She explained that they could review appropriate services, Grandma's needs, and what she wanted to spend. Any relatives who genuinely wanted to help could still offer specific times. Specific. Actual. Confirmed. Then remove me from scheduled weekday coverage, I said. Grandma's eyes met mine through the screen. I still want to see you. You will. When? The logistics manager and me wanted to give her a date immediately. Tuesday at 10. Thursday after lunch. Something concrete. Something useful. Instead, I looked toward the hospital bag, still sitting half unpacked near the wall. I don't know yet. That answer made my skin itch. But I continued. When I'm able to visit, I'll call you. I don't want visiting you turned into a shift. Grandma nodded. All right. After the call, Nina sent the revised draft. My name was gone from the weekday blocks. For perhaps half a minute, satisfaction warmed through me. Then the ache behind my eyes sharpened. The laptop went shut. No celebration. No deep dive into old emails. I went back to bed. By the time Ella finally came home, the world outside our front door felt almost irrelevant. She was so small that the newborn clothes we had bought looked oversized. The first few nights were a blur of feeding, alarms we had set ourselves, whispered questions, and checking her breathing more often than either of us admitted. Our dining table became its own little command center. Feeding notebook. Discharge instructions. Medication. Clean bottles. Burp cloths. My laptop stayed closed more often than not. 3 days after Ella came home, the doorbell rang. Owen looked through the side window. Your parents. My shoulders locked. Did they ask first? No. Of course they hadn't. He looked back at me. Do you want them in? The answer took longer than I expected. Yes. 10 minutes. He opened the door but didn't step away immediately. Mom's voice carried down the hall. We came to see our granddaughter. Owen kept his tone even. You can, if Megan wants the visit to continue. Dad exhaled loudly. For God's sake. She gets to end the conversation whenever she wants. Then Owen moved aside. Nothing else. No confrontation. No speech about what they had done. The choice remained mine. Mom came in carrying a gift bag. Dad held flowers. Ella was asleep in the bassinet. For several minutes, they behaved like grandparents. Mom whispered about Ella's tiny fingers. Dad asked about her weight. Mom placed a soft pink blanket beside the bassinet. Part of me hated how much I wanted those few minutes to mean something. Then Mom looked at me. Grandma comes home Monday. The room changed. Yes. She's anxious. She sounded okay yesterday. Mom's face shifted. You spoke to her again? Yes. A tiny pause. There it was. I had gone around her. Grandma raised you, she said. She needs us. She needs care. That's what I said. No, those aren't the same thing. Dad lowered himself into a chair. Couldn't you just help the first week? Everybody's trying to get settled. My eyes moved around the room. Postpartum instructions were clipped to the refrigerator. Ella's feeding notebook sat open beside me. Getting up too quickly still hurt. I had not slept longer than a few hours at a time since bringing her home. No. Dad blinked. Mom stared. For the first 6 weeks postpartum, I'm taking 0 scheduled caregiving shifts. Mom gave a short, humorless laugh. 0. Yes. You're home. My location is not availability. Oh, for heaven's sake. You make everything sound like work. At work, at least people ask before they put me on a schedule. Dad rubbed his forehead. No one is trying to hurt you. Then respecting this should be easy. Mom leaned forward. Your grandmother should not have to drain her savings paying strangers when she has people who love her. She wanted professional help. Mom stopped. Who told you that? Grandma. Her eyes narrowed slightly. You upset her with all of this? No. I asked her what she wanted. She doesn't understand how expensive these services are. She understands her own money. Megan, you have no idea how much care can cost. A strange laugh almost escaped me. On the kitchen counter behind her sat an envelope from the hospital. Claims were still processing from my premature delivery and Ella's NICU stay. Nothing about our finances had become magically harmless because my insurance was good. You told me my hospital costs were fine because I have insurance. That's different. How? Because you're covered. Covered doesn't mean free. Mom waved the point away. This isn't about your hospital bill. No. It's about why Grandma's savings deserve protection more than my recovery deserves protection. That is not what I said. It's what the plan does. Dad stepped in. Could we not turn this into a fight about principles? It became a principle when my name appeared on a schedule before anyone spoke to me. Mom stood. You would have helped before all this nonsense around Lily's birthday. That's the problem. What is? You keep saying what I would have done as though that's permission to promise it. Her face hardened. So this is revenge? No. Then what do you call refusing your grandmother? I'm not refusing, Grandma. Yes, you are. No. I am refusing shifts somebody else assigned me. Dad glanced toward Mom. Carol, maybe. Don't. She looked back at me. You've become incredibly selfish. The words landed exactly where they had landed my entire life. Normally, I would have scrambled to prove otherwise. Listed what I had already done. Offered a compromise. Accepted one day so nobody could say I had abandoned anyone. Ella made a soft sound from the bassinet. That tiny noise brought me back into the room. For 6 weeks I am not scheduled family care, I said. If I visit Grandma, I decide when and for how long. Mom picked up her purse. Fine. Dad stood more slowly. We'll talk when everyone's calmer. No. He paused. If there's something you need from me, ask me directly. Don't have Mom tell people I've agreed. Dad looked as if I had made the conversation more complicated rather than less. Then they left. The door had barely closed before my breathing changed. All that control I had held during the conversation disappeared. I sat at the table and covered my mouth with one hand because I didn't want to wake Ella. Owen came back from the hallway. Do you want me here? I nodded. He sat. That was all. No congratulations. No, I told you so. No speech about my mother. The guilt had to move through me on its own. For most of my life, saying no had felt like causing harm. Now, my body was learning that discomfort and wrongdoing were not the same thing. Later that evening, the family group chat began filling. Mom had posted first. She wrote that Grandma's care had been arranged weeks earlier. According to her, I had committed to helping during the first stretch home, then backed out after the disagreement surrounding Lily's birthday. I read the message twice. There it was. The new story. Not, Megan was never asked. Megan promised, then changed her mind. Aunt Diane sent a heart emoji. My cousin Beth wrote, could everyone maybe compromise for Grandma? Dad responded, let's not do this in the group. One uncle said nothing. No mob. No coordinated attack. Just enough social pressure to make Mom's version feel established if I let it stand. Then, Lily messaged privately. I don't agree with what Mom and Dad did at the hospital, but Grandma shouldn't have to pay for this because you're angry. My fingers went numb around the phone. I opened Nina's draft. The date was right there. Thursday. Before the birthday. Before labor. A screenshot went to Lily. This schedule existed before I went into labor. I never approved it. 3 dots appeared. Mom probably thought you would. My answer came faster than anything else that week. Thinking I will say yes is not asking. No response. I didn't send another message. That restraint felt almost as unfamiliar as the boundary itself. The next morning, after Ella ate and finally settled, I opened a note on my phone. 4 simple headings. Date. Request. Who claimed confirmation? Did Megan confirm? The first line was easy. Grandma weekday care. Carol. No. Then another memory surfaced. Thanksgiving. Mom had told everyone I was hosting before asking. Another. Dad's medical appointment. I thought your mother talked to you. Another. Lily's move. Mom said I had offered my SUV. The entries accumulated slowly. 5 minutes at a time. 10 if I felt strong. Never enough to turn recovery into a second job. By the 3rd day, the pattern was almost embarrassingly plain. Mom made a promise involving me. Someone else planned around that promise. Then the request reached me after saying no would inconvenience several people at once. The guilt was not an accidental side effect. It was what made the system work. That realization scared me enough that I kept typing. 20 minutes later, Owen appeared beside the table. "You're doing the thing again." "What thing?" "The thing where you stop noticing your own body." My shoulders were aching. The coffee beside me had gone untouched. He nodded toward the phone. "Do you need this right now?" Facts were calming. Dates stayed in their boxes. Columns didn't accuse me of being a bad daughter. But Ella was asleep nearby, one fist tucked beside her cheek. "No." "What do you need?" The answer came before I could make it useful. 1 hour. For what? 1 hour where nobody needs anything from me except her. Owen picked up my phone. Notifications? Off. He silenced them and set the phone face down. Then he carried the papers from the couch into the dining room without reading them. For the next hour, nothing got solved. Grandma's care plan still existed. Mom was still angry. Lily still hadn't replied. The group chat kept going without me. I lay on the couch with Ella sleeping close by and did absolutely nothing productive for anyone else. At first, the emptiness made me restless. Then it began to feel expensive. Not in dollars. In ownership? This was what everyone had been scheduling without asking. My time. That evening, when I turned notifications back on, Lily's name sat near the top of the screen. One question went to her. "What exactly did Mom tell you when you accepted the Carson campaign?" Several minutes passed. "She said you had Grandma covered." Exact words? Another delay. Then a screenshot arrived. It was dated before the birthday. Mom's message read, "Megan insisted you take the opportunity. She said she already has Mom covered for the first 2 weeks. Don't feel guilty. This is your time." The air seemed to leave the room. Not one sentence was true. I had never told Mom I had Grandma covered. I had never insisted Lily take anything. Mom had not simply used my availability to fill a schedule. She had used my supposed generosity to remove Lily's guilt. My name had become permission. Lily called immediately. "Did you say any of that?" "No. Not even that I should take the campaign." "No. But you knew how much I wanted it." "Yes." "That's different." "Yes." Her breathing came through the speaker. "Mom said you insisted." I can see what she said. What am I supposed to believe now? The old version of me would have launched into a case. Every date, every message, every example. I would have worked until Lily believed me, because being understood had always felt like another task I could complete if I explained well enough. This time, I didn't. "Don't believe me just because I'm your sister." "Then what?" "Ask Grandma what Mom told her." Lily didn't answer. "Ask Dad whether he ever heard me volunteer." "Ask Nina whether I confirmed anything." "Check the dates yourself." "So now I'm supposed to investigate Mom?" "No." My voice stayed even. "You're supposed to stop asking Mom what I said." The line went quiet. "I have to go," Lily said finally. "Okay." She hung up. No reassurance. No sudden apology. No dramatic switch of allegiance. And for once, I let someone leave a conversation without chasing them. Ella woke. The next hour belonged to feeding her, changing her, holding her against my chest, while the late afternoon light moved across the floor. The phone stayed face down. Almost an hour later, it vibrated. "Lily. She told Grandma you volunteered." A second message followed. "She told me you insisted." Then nothing. I watched Ella's tiny fingers curl against my shirt. Another vibration. One final sentence appeared. "What else has she been telling us?" What else has she been telling us? Lily's message stayed on my screen long enough for the words to stop feeling like a question and start feeling like a door. A week earlier, I would have pushed it open for her. I would have gathered every example I could remember, written paragraphs, explained Mom's pattern, until there was no room left for doubt. That was what I did when people misunderstood me. I worked harder, this time. I set the phone down beside Ella's bassinet. Lily could ask questions. She could also do some of the asking herself. My daughter had just fallen asleep after a feeding, one cheek pressed against the fabric of her swaddle. The house was finally quiet enough that I could hear the refrigerator cycle on in the kitchen. For once, quiet did not need to be filled with fixing. 20 minutes later, another message arrived. I asked Dad if he ever heard you offer to take Grandma's weekdays. I waited. He said, I thought your mother talked to her. That sentence again. The phrase my father had used so many times, it had become part of the architecture of our relationships. Then Lily sent, I asked whether he actually heard you say yes. A pause. He said no. No surprise. No confession. Just one more missing confirmation, where everyone had treated certainty as if it existed. I typed back, thank you for checking. Lily called almost immediately. You knew he was going to say that, I suspected. That's not the same thing. No. Her breathing sounded uneven through the speaker. What else should I ask? The old instinct returned. Give her the list. Tell her where to look. Manage the investigation. Instead, I adjusted the blanket over my legs. What matters to you? What? What are you trying to understand? Lily went quiet. Finally, she said, whether Mom has been doing this with me too. That's something you have to answer. Megan, come on. I'm not trying to be difficult. It feels like it. I know. That stopped her. The sentence surprised me too. For years, discomfort had been evidence that I needed to soften myself. Now I was learning it could simply mean someone had reached the edge of what I was willing to carry for them. Start with the campaign, I said. You already have the message where she said I insisted you take it. So ask yourself what decisions you made because you believed that. Lily sighed. I accepted the travel. Right. And if you hadn't been available, I still might have accepted it. Probably. That means Mom didn't make the decision for me. I didn't say she did. Then what are you saying? That she made your decision easier by spending something that wasn't hers. My time. Lily did not answer. The line stayed open. Eventually, she said, I hate that you make it sound so simple. It wasn't simple while I was living inside it. That ended the call. Not angrily. Not warmly either. But something had changed. For the first time, Lily had come to me asking what to verify instead of repeating what Mom had said. The next morning, Nina sent the revised discharge plan. Grandma was expected home in several days. Paid daytime assistance had been restored for the hours she wanted covered, with the understanding that relatives could reduce those hours only by personally committing to specific times. Personally, that word did more work than it should have needed to. The plan listed no assumed names. No family will handle. No maternity leave shorthand. Just open blocks. Grandma called after breakfast. I want to pay for weekday mornings, she said. At least until I know what I can manage. That sounds reasonable. Carol thinks it's wasteful. There was no accusation in Grandma's voice. Only fatigue. Do you? No. Then it's your decision. Another pause. What can you do? The question was direct. That alone made answering easier. I can visit Sunday afternoon if Ella has a good morning. For how long? Maybe an hour. Good. No sigh. No, that's all? No transformation of an offer into an obligation. Just good. I wrote the visit into my own calendar. Sunday afternoon. Tentative. Not a shift. A visit. It was the first commitment I had made to Grandma since all of this began, and because nobody else had made it for me, it felt completely different. Later that day, another envelope from the hospital arrived. An explanation of benefits. Then another notification in the insurance portal. Some amounts were still pending. Some were processed. None of it was catastrophic, but the pages were enough to make the phrase, "You have good insurance," sound even more absurd. Good insurance was not a magic eraser. Neither was maternity leave. I placed the papers in a folder and stopped there. No panic. No imaginary calculations about Grandma's finances. No reflexive thought that maybe I should save everybody money by taking a few shifts after all. That thought did come. I simply let it pass. The first real confrontation came 2 days later. Mom created a group video call. The title was Ruth Home Plan. Seeing the notification made my stomach tighten. Dad joined. Lily joined from what looked like her office. Grandma was on from rehab. Mom appeared last. Owen was in the kitchen, but I took the call alone from the dining table. Ella slept nearby. Good, Mom said as soon as everyone was connected. Now we can finally straighten this out. That sentence told me exactly what kind of meeting she thought this was. One where the old arrangement would be restored, once everyone calmed down. Mom shared a spreadsheet. It was the original color-coded calendar. My name was still there. Megan, Grandma said immediately. That isn't the new one. I know. Mom frowned. It's the one we already built around. Built around what? I asked. Everybody's availability. No. Built around assumed availability. Mom exhaled. We are not starting this again. I'm not starting anything. Lily leaned closer to her screen. Why is Megan still on there? Because this was the schedule before she decided she wasn't helping. There it was. Not mistaken. Not misunderstood. Decided she wasn't helping. I opened the email Nina had sent. The date of Mom's first availability statement was already highlighted in my notes. Carol, Grandma said, take Megan off. Mom's mouth tightened. If we take her off, there are gaps everywhere. I heard my own job in that sentence. Gaps. That was what had always turned into me. A gap appeared. Megan filled it. My pulse sped up. Instead of arguing, I opened the simple capacity map I had made during those short 10-minute sessions. No decorative colors. No emotional labels. Just actual commitments. Grandma had already approved the paid morning coverage. Dad had told Grandma he could handle one afternoon appointment and one grocery run each week. Lily had offered 2 weekend blocks when she was not traveling. Mom had not yet entered a single confirmed block under her own name. I shared the screen. Here's what's actually confirmed. Mom stared. What is this? The plan based on what people personally agreed to. Dad's name appeared twice. Lily's appeared on weekends. Professional help covered weekday mornings. My Sunday visit appeared separately as a visit, not caregiving coverage. Then there were the remaining gaps. Mom looked at the screen. You put me down for nothing. No, you confirmed nothing. I'm coordinating everything. That's not a care shift. I'm arranging services, talking to people, managing her appointments. Those things count as work. Mom seemed briefly surprised that I had said it. I continued. So put them down. What? If you're doing coordination, list the hours you're actually doing it. If you're taking a shift, confirm the shift. If Dad is driving, put Dad. If Lily can do Saturday, put Lily. If Grandma is paying for help, put paid care. And you? My confirmed caregiving hours are 0. Mom's expression sharpened. Grandma spoke before she could. That is what Megan told me to. Mom looked toward Grandma's square on the screen. So everybody is comfortable with me doing all of this? No, I said. I'm not saying you should. Then who? Whoever agrees. That's not a plan. It is the only honest plan. Dad leaned back. We can't leave holes. No. For the first time, I agreed with him completely. We can't. The sentence sat there. Mom looked from one screen to another. I did not fill the silence. That was the hard part. Not building the sheet. Not finding the records. Waiting while the gap remained visible without jumping into it. Lily spoke. What hours still need coverage? I scrolled. Tuesday and Thursday afternoons are the biggest ones if Grandma wants someone there beyond the paid morning help. I can't do weekdays while I'm traveling. I know. Mom said quickly. That's why Megan. Lily cut in. Mom? Nothing dramatic. Just her name. But Mom stopped. Lily continued. I asked Megan. She said no. Mom's face changed. So you're taking her side now. I'm saying she said no. After everything I've done to make your campaign possible. Lily sat back. Megan didn't make my campaign possible. Mom went quiet. She didn't tell me to take it, Lily said. You did. I encouraged you. You said, she insisted. Because she knew how much it meant to you. That isn't what she said. Mom's voice rose slightly. Why are we dissecting every word like this? Because the words had been the mechanism. That answer came to me instantly. I did not say it. Lily did. Because you used her name. Mom stared at the screen. Dad shifted in his chair. Grandma folded her hands. No one rescued Mom from the sentence. A week earlier, I might have felt guilty watching her cornered. Instead, I watched the structure become visible. Not because I exposed a secret plot. Because for once, nobody accepted, Megan said, as sufficient. Mom looked at me. You're enjoying this. The accusation was so familiar that my body reacted before my mind did. Heat rose into my face. My throat tightened. I almost started defending myself. Then Ella stirred beside me. No. My voice stayed even. I'm tired. That was all. Mom laughed once. Then why are you making spreadsheets about me? I'm making a schedule for Grandma, based on actual commitments. You're trying to make me look like I do nothing. No. My cursor moved to the empty cell beneath her name. You decide what goes here. That was the shift. Not me assigning her. Not me punishing her. Her time. Her choice. Her consequence. Mom stared at the screen. What if I can't do those afternoons? Then they stay uncovered until somebody volunteers or Grandma pays for additional help. She can't just keep paying. Grandma's voice came through clearly. I can decide what I can pay. Mom turned toward her. Mom, you need to preserve your savings. For what? The question stopped everyone. Grandma continued. I'm 82, Carol. I saved money so I could use it when I needed help. Mom's mouth opened. Grandma shook her head. I asked about hiring someone before any of this. I was trying to keep you from wasting money. You weren't spending your time. Mom's face went still. Grandma looked toward the screen. You were spending Megan's. The words hit harder because they did not come from me. I had not coached them. Had not asked Grandma to confront anyone. She had arrived there through her own experience. That distinction mattered. Mom left the call 3 minutes later. No dramatic exit. She simply said she had another call and disconnected. The original calendar remained on the screen for a moment after her square disappeared. Then I stopped sharing it. We finished the meeting. Grandma chose to keep the paid mornings. Dad committed to 1 weekday afternoon and 1 grocery run. Lily offered to cover 2 Sundays during her travel period and contribute toward extra professional hours on weeks when she could not physically help. What about the remaining Tuesday? Dad asked. No one answered immediately. Again, I let the empty space exist. Dad finally said, I can see if I can move something. Grandma said, if you can't, I'll pay for the extra hours. And that was it. No emergency. No moral collapse. A gap could be solved without me. The realization was so simple I almost felt embarrassed. For years, every uncovered responsibility had been presented as proof that I needed to step in. But uncovered was not the same as impossible. Sometimes uncovered simply meant somebody had to decide whether the task was important enough to spend their own time or money on. After the meeting, Lily called. I feel sick. You okay? I keep rereading Mom's messages. You don't have to do that tonight. I asked her about another thing. My stomach tightened. What thing? Last Thanksgiving. Memory arrived immediately. 23 people. 3 days of preparation. Lily arriving with wine. What did you ask? Why she told me not to come early because you liked doing everything yourself. My hand stopped. What? She told me you hated people in your kitchen. That's not true. I know that now. The room around me seemed to tilt slightly. Not from surprise exactly, but from the way an old memory changed shape. I remembered being angry that Lily never offered to help. Remembered watching her walk in dressed for dinner while I still had flour on my shirt. Remembered Mom telling me, you know Lily isn't good with this stuff. What did she say when you asked? I said. She said she was trying to prevent us from fighting. That sounded like Mom. What did you tell her? That she caused the thing she said she was preventing. I breathed out slowly. Lily continued. Meg, I'm sorry. My eyes closed. Not because the apology fixed anything, because it was the first time she had apologized for a specific thing without immediately asking me to make her feel better about it. I should have asked you, she said. Yes. I thought you liked being in charge. Sometimes I do. Then how was I supposed to know? You weren't. That surprised her into silence. I continued. You weren't supposed to know what Mom never let you ask. So none of this is my fault? That's not what I said. Her expression tightened. You still benefited. Lily looked away. Yeah, you accepted the easy version because it was easy. That's fair. And I accepted being the reliable one because it made me feel needed. Saying that hurt. It also felt true. I wasn't just trapped by everybody else, I said. I kept stepping into the same role because I thought being needed meant I mattered. Lily looked back at me. What does that mean for us? I don't know yet. She nodded. That was another new thing. not demanding a reassuring ending, just allowing uncertainty. Sunday came. Grandma was home. I called before visiting. Not Mom. Grandma. Still good for an hour? I asked. Only if you are. Yes. Owen drove because I was still uncomfortable on longer trips, but he stayed home with Ella after I decided I wanted the visit to be just Grandma and me. Walking into Grandma's house felt strange. There was a professional caregiver finishing the morning shift. A woman named Teresa handed Grandma a cup of tea and reviewed something small with her before leaving. No drama. No stranger invading the family. Just a competent person doing a job Grandma had chosen to pay for. Grandma caught me watching the door. What? Nothing. That, look, is not nothing. I sat down. I spent a week hearing the word strangers like hiring help meant abandoning you. Grandma snorted. Teresa makes better tea than your mother. I laughed harder than the joke deserved. It felt good. For the next hour, nobody asked me to organize anything. Grandma showed me a photograph. We talked about Ella. She asked about my recovery. Near the end of the visit, I noticed the original color-coded calendar folded on a side table. My old name-filled schedule. Grandma followed my gaze. Carol left it. You want me to throw it away? No. Her answer surprised me. I want to remember to ask people myself. She picked up the folded paper. Then, she placed it in a drawer. Not evidence. Not a weapon. A reminder. When the hour was over, I stood. Grandma looked disappointed. For a second, I nearly sat back down. Then she smiled. Go home to that baby. I'll call you. When you can. Yes. The visit had not become a shift. Love had survived a boundary. I needed to see that. At home, another message from Mom waited. You've made your point. Can we stop punishing everyone now? My thumb hovered over the screen. A dozen replies came to mind. No one is being punished. You did this. Grandma chose. Ask Lily. Read the schedule. Instead, I typed one sentence. If you need something from me, ask me directly and accept the answer I give. Mom replied almost immediately. This is not how family works. The phrase did not hurt the way she intended anymore. Maybe because I had spent the afternoon with Grandma. Maybe because the house was warm and Ella was asleep against Owen's chest. Maybe because for the first time, I had evidence that love did not collapse when I stopped being useful. I put the phone away. Over the next week, the new care plan held. Not elegantly. Dad complained that the grocery run took longer than expected. Lily discovered that arranging coverage around travel required more than saying she was busy. Grandma paid for additional hours on one afternoon nobody could cover. And Mom took 2 weekday blocks herself. I knew because Grandma told me. Not because Mom announced them. That mattered too. The work was finally landing on the people who made the decisions. Then Lily sent me another screenshot. Mom had messaged her privately after the care plan meeting. After everything I did to protect your opportunity, you let Megan embarrass me in front of Grandma. Lily's response sat underneath. You didn't protect my opportunity. You made promises in her name. Mom had replied, you have no idea how much I've sacrificed to keep this family together. Lily wrote, then tell people what you are willing to sacrifice. Stop telling them what Megan will. I stared at the exchange for a long time. There it was. The thing Mom had never expected. Not exposure. Verification. The golden child had started asking for receipts. A message came from Dad that evening. Not in the group. Just to me. Your mother is having a hard time with all this. The old invitation was obvious. Fix it. Soften it. Call her. Make the discomfort go away. I wrote back. I'm sorry she's having a hard time. Then I stopped typing. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Finally. Are you going to call her? My answer was simple. No. A full minute passed. Why not? I looked across the room. Ella was awake in her bassinet. One small foot had worked free of the blanket. My own calendar lay on the coffee table. Sunday visit with Grandma. Ella's pediatric appointment. A reminder to walk around the block if I felt up to it. Nothing anyone else had inserted. Because this is hers to work through. Dad did not respond. For several days, Mom did not contact me. The quiet felt wrong at first. My nervous system had spent years treating her displeasure like an alarm. A missed call from Mom could alter my entire evening. A short text could send me searching for what I had done. Now there was nothing to solve. So I started taking small pieces of my life back. Not impressive pieces. A shower without carrying my phone into the bathroom. 20 minutes on the porch while Owen held Ella. A call with my manager where I discussed my eventual return date without once checking whether Grandma's schedule would conflict. When my manager asked, "Do you still want us to keep you in mind for the senior planning opening when you come back?" My first thought was, Mom, how will we manage without you? The sentence appeared automatically. Then, I looked down at Ella. Yes, I said. I do. It was not a promotion. Not yet. Not a rescue. Just permission I had finally stopped waiting for somebody else to give me. That evening, Lily came over. She brought dinner. Not a party centerpiece. Not flowers. A container of pasta and a grocery store salad. "Can I hold her?" she asked. The question itself made me notice how much had changed. Yes. She washed her hands first. Then she sat on the couch with Ella against her chest. For a while, we talked about nothing important. Eventually, Lily looked at me. "Mom called me this morning." I waited. "She wants me to tell Grandma the paid help is too expensive." "Are you going to?" "No." A tiny knot inside me loosened. "What did you say?" "That Grandma can decide what to spend." I nodded. Lily looked down at Ella. "Mom said you've turned me against her." My body reacted before I could stop it. Not fear exactly. A familiar pull. The urge to make sure Lily didn't blame me for what happened next. "What do you think?" I asked. Lily's mouth twisted. "I think I spent years believing the version of you she gave me. That hurt more than accusation would have. Because it was honest. And I think you did the same thing with me." "Yes." She looked up. "Do you think we can fix that?" "I think we can stop letting somebody else speak for us." That wasn't my question. I know. The old me would have promised. "Of course. We're sisters. Everything will be fine." Instead, I said, "I don't know what will be yet." Lily nodded slowly. "Fair." Then her phone buzzed. She glanced down. "Mom." I saw the name because Lily was sitting beside me. She didn't answer. Another call came. Then a text. Lily read it. Her face changed. "What?" She turned the screen toward me. Mom had written, "Tell Megan Grandma can't afford this forever. She needs to stop being stubborn before I'm forced to explain to everyone what she's doing." The threat was vague. That was how Mom liked them. Enough to make me imagine the worst. Lily stared at me. What is she talking about? For a moment, the old fear rose again. What story could Mom tell? What had she been saying? Who would believe her? Then I remembered the dates. The care drafts. Nina's record. Grandma's own decision. Lily's screenshots. Dad admitting he never heard me agree. For the first time in my life, Mom did not control the only version of events. "She can explain whatever she wants," I said. Lily studied my face. "You're not worried?" "I am." That was true. Then I picked up my phone and opened the folder labeled Ruth Confirmation. But this time, I don't have to be afraid of what she says. Lily looked at the screen. "What are you going to do?" The answer had been building for weeks. Not revenge. Not a public humiliation. Something much harder for Mom to fight. "I'm going to stop arguing about who's selfish." The folder closed. "And I'm going to make everybody look at what was actually promised, who promised it, and who is finally paying the cost." I'm going to make everybody look at what was actually promised, who promised it, and who is finally paying the cost. Lily kept her eyes on the folder open on my phone. For once, she didn't ask what I wanted her to do. That mattered. The next morning, after Ella's first feeding, and before exhaustion had a chance to settle behind my eyes, I opened the capacity sheet I had been building in pieces. The first version had been made for Grandma. This one was different. Not bigger. Clearer. Across the top were 4 columns. What was needed? Who had personally agreed? Who had been listed without confirmation? What the alternative cost? There were no accusations in it. No phrases like "Mom lied." No section titled "Things Carol did." Dates were enough. Grandma's first discharge draft showed paid weekday help. Then came Mom's message to the rehabilitation team, saying I would be home on maternity leave. The next draft reduced the paid hours. Lily's screenshot showed Mom telling her I had insisted she take the Carson campaign because I already had Grandma covered. Dad had admitted he never heard me volunteer. Grandma had confirmed she originally wanted to hire help. Nina's record showed no direct confirmation from me. Everything fit on 2 pages. At the bottom I added one sentence. Any future commitment made in someone else's name must be confirmed directly by that person before anyone plans around it. My hands were trembling when I saved the file. Not from fear alone. My body still tired easily, and I had learned not to confuse determination with stamina. So, I closed the laptop. Owen came into the kitchen, carrying Ella. She's looking for you. That makes 2 of us. He smiled and handed her over. Her weight against my chest changed the scale of everything. The spreadsheet could wait. My mother's anger could wait. The version of me that had spent years treating everyone else's urgency as more important than my own life was the only thing that could not continue. Later that afternoon, I emailed the sheet to Grandma, Dad, Lily, and Mom. The message above it was short. This is the care plan as I understand it from the records and direct confirmations I have. If anything about your own commitment is wrong, please correct your own line. Please do not change anyone else's. My finger hovered over send. Then, clicked. Mom called within 4 minutes. I let it ring. She called again. Then came a text. You send a spreadsheet like I'm some employee now? Another. Pick up the phone. Then, you are humiliating me over a misunderstanding. The old panic rose quickly. Her displeasure had always felt like a fire alarm in my body. Something must be fixed now. Somebody must be reassured now. The phone stayed face down. A few minutes later, Dad called. That one I answered. Megan. His voice sounded exhausted. Hi, Dad. Your mother is very upset. I assumed she was. Could you call her? No. A pause. Why not? Because if she thinks something in the sheet is factually wrong, she can reply to the email. This is your mother, not a vendor dispute. I know. Then why are you treating it like paperwork? Because every time we talk about feelings, the facts disappear. He didn't answer. I looked down at Ella, who had wrapped one tiny fist around the fabric of my shirt. The schedule was made before I went into labor, I said. Mom told Grandma I volunteered. She told Lily I insisted. She told the rehab team I was available. None of those things came from me. Dad exhaled. She thought you would help. That is not the same as me agreeing. We all know you usually help. And that is exactly why nobody bothered asking. The sentence landed harder than I expected. Dad went quiet. For years, I had believed Mom was the only one making assumptions. But Dad had lived comfortably inside them. Every time he said, I thought your mother talked to you. He had accepted a system where my consent was somebody else's administrative detail. I don't want to fight with you, he said finally. Then don't. What does that mean? It means tell me what you personally can do for Grandma. Don't tell me what Mom thinks I should do. His answer took a while. I can still do the grocery run. And the afternoon you committed to? Yes. Okay. What about the other gaps? They're not automatically mine. Another long pause. Then Dad said, I understand what you're saying. It wasn't an apology. I didn't turn it into one. That's all I'm asking you to understand. When we hung up, I opened the email thread. Dad had replied to the sheet. Tuesday afternoon and weekly groceries confirmed by me. 5 minutes later, Lily responded. 2 Sundays confirmed. I can also contribute toward additional paid care during travel weeks. Grandma wrote. Paid weekday mornings remain my choice. I will add paid afternoons if necessary. Mom said nothing. For 3 hours. Then her reply arrived. This chart leaves out everything I do. I read it once. Then again. That accusation was the closest thing to an opening she had given me. So I answered carefully. Then add what you are personally doing. A response came almost immediately. I coordinate appointments, medications, discharge needs, meals, transportation, and communication with everyone. Put those hours down. Nothing. I waited. Mom had spent years insisting invisible labor mattered whenever it was hers. I agreed with her. That was the part she hadn't expected. Half an hour later, the document notification changed. Carol Walker had added several blocks under her own name. Coordination. 2 weekday afternoons. 1 pharmacy pickup. A meal drop-off. The gaps got smaller. No miracle occurred. Nobody collapsed. Grandma was not abandoned. The world simply stopped using me as the default answer. By the end of that week, Grandma's actual first month home had a workable structure. Professional support covered the hours she wanted to pay for. Dad handled groceries and 1 afternoon. Mom took 2 afternoons and some coordination. Lily contributed money during her travel weeks and 2 Sundays when she was home. 1 uncovered afternoon became additional paid care. My name appeared nowhere except a small note under visits. Megan will arrange directly with Ruth as able. That line gave me more relief than I knew a sentence could. Mom did not. 2 days later, she posted in the extended family group chat. I never thought taking care of my own mother would become a financial negotiation, but apparently some people only help when everything is convenient. No name. She didn't need one. The old version of me would have written paragraphs. I had drafts of them in my head before I finished reading. I could explain premature labor, the NICU, the unapproved calendar, Grandma's original request, the dates. Then Aunt Diane replied, "I'm sorry this has become so stressful. Is Ruth getting what she needs?" Mom wrote, "We're making it work." That sentence almost made me laugh. Because it was true. They were making it work, without consuming my maternity leave. So I put the phone away. No defense. No counterattack. The records were available to the people who mattered. My piece did not require winning every audience. 3 weeks after Grandma came home, I visited again. This time Ella came with me. Grandma sat in her recliner with a folded blanket over her knees and nearly cried when I placed her great-granddaughter in her arms. She's gotten bigger. Still tiny. Not to me. Teresa, the professional caregiver Mom had once reduced to the word stranger, was finishing up in the kitchen. She waved goodbye to Grandma, reminded her where she had left lunch, and headed out. Grandma waited until the door closed. "Your mother still complains about the cost." I figured. I told her to stop. A smile tugged at my mouth. "How'd that go?" "She told me I'm stubborn. That's hereditary." Grandma laughed softly so she wouldn't disturb Ella. Then her face became more serious. "I want you to know something." I waited. "I was worried you'd stop coming." The admission hurt. "Because Mom told you I was angry?" "Partly." Grandma looked down at Ella. "And partly because I thought maybe I had expected too much of you over the years too. You asked me directly this time." "Yes. That matters." "You're not angry with me?" "I was angry at the situation." "That isn't what I asked." I smiled faintly. "I know. For once, there was no reason to make the answer prettier than it was." "I'm still figuring out what I'm angry about." Grandma nodded. "That's fair. No demand for forgiveness." "No, but she's your mother." "Just room." I had spent so long believing boundaries destroyed relationships that I hadn't considered the opposite. Sometimes boundaries showed which relationships could exist without exploitation. When I got home, an email from my manager was waiting. The senior planning position had officially opened. Applications were due the following week. The description looked like work I had already been doing in pieces for years. Regional coordination, capacity planning, escalation management, team leadership. Before Ella, I had told myself I would consider applying eventually. Then pregnancy had become tiring. Grandma's surgery had happened. Mom had started talking about how much everyone would need me once the baby came. Somewhere along the way, eventually, had begun quietly turning into no. The application sat open on my laptop while Ella slept. Owen walked past, saw the screen, and stopped. "You applying?" "Yes." He smiled. Nothing more. No speech about believing in me. No promise that he would make my career possible. He went back to washing bottles. The decision was mine. The cost would be ours to plan honestly. That distinction mattered now. I submitted the application before I could ask myself who might need me too much. Mom found out through Lily. That became obvious when a message arrived the following evening. "You're applying for a bigger job while claiming you don't have time to help Grandma." My stomach tightened, then relaxed. The contradiction existed only if every hour I possessed belonged to a common pool. "I am not claiming I have no time," I wrote back. I am deciding what I do with it, Mom replied. That says everything. For once, I agreed. A month passed, then another. My leave stopped feeling like a stolen pocket of time and started feeling like a life. Not an easy one. Ella slept badly some nights. I worried too much. My body recovered slower than I wanted. Hospital statements arrived. Insurance processed them in its own unhurried way. There were deductibles and coinsurance and amounts we had expected and amounts we hadn't. We handled them. No wealthy relative appeared. No surprise check erased the experience. Owen and I adjusted our budget and moved on. The contrast stayed with me. Mom had treated Grandma's paid care like a financial catastrophe, while describing my own costs as harmless because I had insurance. It had never really been about saving money. It had been about whose resources she felt entitled to allocate. Grandma's savings belonged to Grandma. My leave belonged to me. That was the piece Mom had refused to accept, until reality stopped giving her another option. Lily called one evening from a hotel during her Carson campaign. I need to tell you something. What happened? Mom asked me to tell Grandma I could do next Sunday. Can you? No. Then don't. I know. There was something almost amused in her voice. That's the weird part. I know. I smiled. What did you tell her? That I wasn't available. And, she said, but I already told Grandma you could. Of course. What did you do? I called Grandma. I sat up slightly. And? I told her. Mom had spoken before asking me. A quiet satisfaction moved through me. Not because Mom had failed. Because Lily had changed the route. No triangulation. No message passed through 3 people. Direct communication. What did Grandma say? She laughed. That sounds like her. Then she hired Teresa for the extra hours. No disaster. Again, just a problem solved by the person whose problem it actually was, using resources she had chosen. Lily became quieter. I used to think you made things harder by being so particular. I know. I think Mom told me that a lot. She told me you were too irresponsible to ask. Lily made a small sound. That tracks. For a while, neither of us said anything. Then she asked, do you hate me? The question caught me off guard. No. Even after all of it? No. Why? Because hating you would be easier than figuring out what our relationship actually is. She let out a breath. That's annoyingly mature. I have a newborn. Nothing about me feels mature. She laughed. Then I added, but I'm not pretending nothing happened either. I don't want you to. That mattered more than another apology. By the time I returned to work, Grandma's care plan had stopped being a crisis. It was simply a schedule. Sometimes paid help increased. Sometimes Dad did more. Sometimes Mom took another afternoon. Lily contributed in ways she could actually sustain. Grandma adjusted things when she wanted. My calendar remained separate. The first week back was harder than I expected. Leaving Ella in the morning made my chest ache. Concentrating for a full day felt like rediscovering a muscle. But there was also a part of me that returned the moment I stepped into our planning room and saw the familiar wall of schedules. A shipment was delayed. One distribution center was short-staffed. 2 people had built plans around an assumption nobody had confirmed. 6 months earlier, I would have smiled at the irony. Now I walked to the board and asked, who actually confirmed this capacity? The room went quiet. Then one of my coordinators said, nobody yet. So we don't have it. We rebuilt the plan. No guilt. No personal betrayal. Just reality. A week later, my manager called me into her office. You still want the senior role? Yes. Good. She slid a folder toward me. The offer wasn't magical. It came with more responsibility, more meetings, and a raise that matched the work. I read every page before signing. Then I signed my own name. Not because anyone needed me to. Because I wanted the job. When I told Owen that evening, he hugged me so tightly I laughed. When I told Grandma, she said, about time. When Lily heard, she sent me a picture of champagne, with the caption, this one is actually for you. Mom did not congratulate me. 3 days later, she sent, I hope this doesn't mean you'll be even less available. I stared at the message, then deleted it without replying. That was the moment I knew something had changed permanently. Not Mom. Me. Her disapproval still existed. It simply no longer required action. The final break in her old system came several months later at a lunch Grandma hosted. Nothing fancy. Sandwiches. Soup. A bakery cake. Ella sat on my lap, tugging at the edge of a napkin. Lily was across from me. Dad was helping Grandma carry bowls from the kitchen. Mom had spent most of the meal behaving pleasantly enough that I almost relaxed. Then, conversation turned to Christmas. Mom set down her fork. Megan's hosting this year, so we can keep things simple. My body reacted first. A small tightening in my stomach. The ancient reflex. Explain. Correct, gently. Offer an alternative. Before I opened my mouth, Lily looked at Mom. Did she tell you that? The table went still. Mom blinked. What? Did Megan tell you she's hosting? Mom's eyes moved toward me. She always does. That wasn't my question, Lily said. The exact words I had used months earlier. Mom's jaw tightened. We were discussing this weeks ago. You discussed it, I said. Her gaze snapped to me. I never agreed. Mom sat back. Oh, for heaven's sake. Does every little thing need a formal confirmation now? Grandma answered before anyone else. If Megan wants to host, Megan will tell us. Dad lowered his eyes toward his plate. No one argued with Grandma. Mom looked around the table as if waiting for someone to restore the old order. Nobody did. There was no dramatic collapse. No public confession. No apology. Something quieter happened. Her sentence stopped being enough. For most of my life, Mom saying, Megan will, had created a fact. People planned, invited, spent, left gaps, then waited for me to fulfill the promise. Now it created a question. Did Megan actually say that? That was all it took to destroy the power the phrase once had. Mom turned toward me. So what are you doing for Christmas? I looked down at Ella. She had finally managed to pull the napkin free and was staring at it as though she had accomplished something enormous. I don't know yet. Mom gave me a look. You don't know? No. But people need to make plans. Then they should make plans that don't depend on me hosting. Lily covered a smile with her water glass. Mom noticed. Apparently this is all funny now. No, Lily said. It really isn't. The smile disappeared. Then she added. But you need to stop volunteering her. The sentence sat in the middle of the table. There it was. Not from me. From the daughter Mom had spent years using as proof that I was difficult. Mom's face changed. You've both decided I'm the villain. No, I said. She looked at me. I decided you don't speak for me. That's the same thing to you, apparently. My pulse jumped. Months earlier, I might have answered that. Today, I didn't need to. Grandma cut a piece of cake. Dad asked Lily about her campaign. Conversation moved. Mom remained at the table. So did I. Nobody was banished. Nobody won custody of the family. There was simply a boundary sitting among us now, visible enough that no one could pretend they hadn't seen it. About 20 minutes later, Ella started rubbing her face against my sweater. Her nap. I stood and reached for the diaper bag. Mom looked up. You're leaving already? Yes. But everyone just got here. Months earlier, that sentence would have kept me another hour, maybe 2. I would have stayed until Ella became overtired, until my shoulders hurt, until I was angry at everyone except the person who had actually made the decision. Me. Now I slipped Ella into her little jacket. Mom watched. At least wait for coffee. No, thanks. Megan. I looked at her. For a moment, I could almost see every version of myself that had stood in front of her. The girl who thought being easy to manage might make her more lovable. The eldest daughter who mistook exhaustion for usefulness. The woman who believed every uncovered shift was a test of her character. The pregnant daughter begging in a hallway while her parents walked toward a birthday party. Then the hospital room. The folder. My name filling boxes I had never agreed to fill. Mom gestured toward the table. We're all here. I know. That was all. No anger. No apology. No explanation. I adjusted Ella against my chest and walked toward the door. Outside, the air was cool enough that she tucked her face beneath my chin. My phone buzzed inside the diaper bag. I didn't check it. The car was parked beneath a maple tree, and for a few seconds I just stood there holding my daughter. There was nowhere else I had promised to be. No schedule waiting for me that somebody else had written. No gap I had to fill because leaving it empty would prove I was selfish. My time was no longer the place everyone else put what they did not want to carry. It belonged to me. And so did the life I was finally building inside it.